WildChild still in Nova Scotia. Last episode we motored from Drumhead Harbour to Isaacs Harbour to get better protection from the coming storms, and we anchored WildChild off what appeared to be a pier of some type. Well, after that brief 4-mile motor, welcome to Isaacs Harbour, Nova Scotia. There does seem to be some kind of pier there. We still voted to anchor out, but at the very least we figured maybe it's a place we could bring the dinghy to go for a walk on shore. Despite our poverty budget, it's usually safer for WildChild to be anchored out anyways. Navionics labeled this place as Goldboro Public. We weren't sure if that meant public dock, public marina. Mouth of a small river up there. It's the direction the wind's getting funneled from right now, but it's really not that much fetch, so it really can't get that wavy. Seems like there's a forest fire up there. We can smell burnt wood or whatever. I don't know if that's a forest fire or controlled burn, who knows. But it's rainy, so it really can't spread that much. And we're always happy to see fellow sailors. Look, sailboats, yay! Just little fun day sailors, but it's real sailors that own those boats. People that love sailing like we do, so kindred spirits. So once WildChild was settled, we decided to lower the dinghy and bring it to shore and explore. And we had discovered that the pier we landed on was for the Goldboro Interpretive Center, whatever that means. We wandered around and discovered some local ladies that were working in the building, the first people from Nova Scotia we had spoken to. In conversation with the ladies, we discovered there was a hose with fresh water, and they were willing to let us fill up our water jugs. So we went back to WildChild to fill our tanks. So, Michelle's fishing patience has finally caught off. He's caught his first fish, yay!
A heron, maybe?
I know nothing about fish, I don't know what it is.
It's so vigorous.
So, try and let him free, honey. Oh, poor guy. Conditions are nasty, and tomorrow, if we can leave, we're still probably leaving in 15 to 20 knots of wind. Feel like probably we're more likely to use the storm sail than the head sail. See how it goes, so we deployed it. We've got it anchored out there. Friday morning, we wake up to more dreary, rainy, foggy conditions. We're getting the boat ready to depart, and we go to the deck to look out into the open ocean. That's where we're going. It is wet, it is gray, it is dreary. It's not quite foggy, it's just 100% humidity in every direction. I don't know if that's fog or just rain. It's really not a very nice morning.
At the Atlantic at this time of the year.
And this is the morning of the worst sail of our entire lives. You look around from the protection of the bay and it looks reasonably calm. You really can't tell from in this protection what the mood of the ocean is like. But when we get out there, it's 8 to 10 foot waves and it absolutely spanks us. It is the scariest, most dangerous sail we ever have. Conditions out there were so severe that we actually called the Coast Guard for overwatch to keep an eye on us. Lexi was unconscious most of the time, and this is the day our dreams of sailing around the world evaporated. My body just can't take the punishment of severe ocean conditions. I've been passing out since I was 14. I have a heart condition called vasovagal syncope. Essentially, my brain has trouble regulating my heart rate and blood pressure, and often it gets them mixed up or has a delayed response. I lose blood pressure to the brain, and my lights go out.
This really is not fun for me.
Harbor with hardly any wind. The wind forecast says that today there's only going to be very, very light winds, maybe 7 or 8 knots, 10 in the morning, falling to 5 or 6 in the afternoon. As you can see, the wind forecast is pretty much always wrong. We have, okay, bring the Jenny in a bit. Tighten the Jenny. As you can see, we have 20 knots of wind. We're 19 over 5.6. There's the wind angle. And we're coming out of Isaac's Cove, you know, on a calm, no wind day according to all the wind forecasts, but that's not no wind. Every forecast I checked, Windy TY, Windy, Predict Wind, and Wind Guru, and they all lied, because they always do.
Now this sail was so dangerous that we actually have very little footage during, so I'm going to have to narrate and tell the story for you. We have 3 more miles to go before we get out into the open exposed North Atlantic Ocean and make our right turn. What we don't realize at the time is that hurricane's been pushing up quite a swell. Now I've been sailing for years and my heart condition has never been a problem. I've been sailing in 6-foot waves and I was fine.
And that's sailing, I guess. Every wind forecast lies to you every single time.
So about half an hour after this video, we come out from the protection of the islands and we discover, oh my goodness, it's 8 to 10 foot waves. Our plan was to turn and run along the shore in the 5 or 10 knots of wind. Instead, we had to bear off to quarter the waves because I began to realize in the 10-foot waves, we're surfing. Oh crap, we're headed straight out to sea. Slowly we come out from the protection of the last island. This is just the beginning, and it doesn't show on camera, but when we are in the troughs, the wave peaks are as high as our boom. In fact, there were 2 or 3 times when the end of our boom dunked in the water. This was only the beginning, and conditions were building from here, but suddenly my heart condition became a problem. Now, as our 40-foot boat is riding up and down 10 feet, that means my body is physically getting thrust 10 feet in the air and falling 10 feet over and over and over. And my brain starts to have trouble regulating my heart rate and blood pressure. I start to see white. So for most people, the heart fills with blood and it pumps the blood pressure up into the brain. The heart is full of blood, the brain is full of blood, and your brain works fine. With my heart condition, sometimes my brain doesn't do that properly. I get a sudden drop in blood pressure. I run out of blood in my brain and my lights go out. Well, that day on the boat, the violent motion of the ocean was too much for my brain to compensate for. Every time the boat thrust 10 feet up into the air, the extra gravity caused the blood to drain out of my brain. WildChild's a great girl, and she was handling the conditions very well. I was at the helm studying the situation when all of a sudden, my lights went out. Every time that boat rose the 10 feet in the air, I lost blood pressure and I went out, and then I would wake up, I would recover, I'd orient myself, and bam, it would happen again, over and over and over. Each blackout period lasting for 10 to 60 seconds, and then I'd restore blood pressure. I would come to, I would look around, the boat would rise, and bam, my lights would go out again. Michelle got me down below into the passage bed and put me to bed. I was unconscious for most of the next 4 hours, and Michelle was alone at the helm. Eventually the winds shifted and came down, and the crossing seas pushed down the swell. conditions calmed down and Michel was able to edge the boat back closer to land. 4 or 5 hours later, he begins to pull us into safe harbor. Michel edges the boat in the fog into the wave protection behind an island. As the wave motion settles down, I begin to come to, and I can come to the helm to help him get the boat safely into harbor. We had hourly radio check-ins with the Canadian Coast Guard reporting location, course, and speed. At one point, they asked Michel if he wanted them to send the helicopter to come medevac me. In a roundabout way, we made it 10 miles west of Liscombe into the Nicometooch Bay of the Ecum-Secum River Basin.
And it's supposed to shift. So 6 o'clock, 15 after 6. So we're going just between those two islands, a little bit on the starboard. It's 15. It went up to 28. Big wave, 10 feet wave. It's like a wall. You don't see it on the camera, but when you live it, let me tell you, you feel it. I see a desert.
We brought WildChild in behind that island and dropped the hook and called it a day. That was one wild sail that really shook us up. The boat handled the conditions great and we were safe. But we seriously had to sit down and rethink our plans to go sailing around the world.
You learn that sailing the Atlantic is something. And look at that now. No wave. Far away, there's no wind.